In our sincere attempt to have a proper understanding of the Yoruba cosmology, we have to adopt what is called the holist approach. What this means is that we first have to seek to understand the Yoruba worldview as a whole before we can understand it in parts. And that is what is called holism. If you want to understand a society, you've got to understand that society first as a whole before it can make sense to you in parts, not the other way around. In fact, if you don't have a holistic understanding of a thing, it is impossible to understand that thing in parts. This is the mistake most of us make. How can I make sense of a person's action, for instance, when I lack the understanding of who that person actually is? So when you approach the Yoruba culture, it is a huge mistake to disregard it as a whole and just seek to understand bits of it. That is why it has become difficult for most of our own people to understand the fact that Eshu has nothing in common with the Muslim shaitan or Christian Satan. It is difficult to them to understand because they want to understand Eshu in isolation. Now, when we say things like Eshu has got nothing to do with the Christian Satan, it is not to discredit Christianity or to disparage it in any way. No. We are only setting the record straight. Eshu is a concept that has been conceived in the minds of our ancestors years and centuries before they came in contact with anything called Christianity. So when they said Eshu, they could never have had in mind anything close to the devil or Satan or what have you. Many people don't know this, and that is why we can't stop talking about it. So let us go on. So what I'm saying is that it is impossible to understand the character of Eshu if you don't understand the world of the Orisa. If you view Eshu as a part of a whole, if you see him as a part of a pantheon, then you will seek to understand that pantheon collectively. And then understanding Eshu becomes a walk in the park. I, for one, have always maintained that there is no contradiction in the Yoruba worldview. If there is any contradiction at all, then it is in your mind. You are the one who will have to renew your own mind. Approach these things objectively. Then you will see clearly what the Yoruba view is about life and death, for instance, or the existence of paradise or hellfire. It is very much possible to adopt a scientific approach to the study of our own culture, because the culture itself is scientific to start with. So now let us try to understand the Yoruba world of the Orisa. What is Orisa? They are not gods, they are Orisa. We don't worship them. A máa ń bọ Orisa ni, a kì í sin Orisa. A bọ Orisa lámọ̀, a gbọ́ asin Orisa rí. Olódùmarè nìkan là ń sìn. And that is why we call him Ọlọ́run, Olúọ̀run. Ọ̀run is a word that means source, origin. The word is very much synonymous with Orisun. That is why when something gets damaged or when something perishes, we will say that ó ti parun, parun, death to the source, because Run means source. So Olódùmarè is the one we call Ọlọ́run, and the closest English translation for that would be God. But we don't use Ọlọ́run for the Orisa. We don't say Ọlọ́run irin for Ògún. We don't say Ọlọ́run omi for Olókun. No, we say Òrìṣà irin or Òrìṣà omi. Òrìṣà irin can therefore not translate to God of iron. The English people have gods because they are polytheistic by culture. We are not a polytheistic people. We are very much monotheistic. We only recognize Ọlọ́run as God. Olódùmarè, Òrìṣà are not gods. What are they? Ẹni orí ṣàdá là ń pè ní òrìṣà. The ones whose ori have singled them out to be extraordinary. Ènìyàn lè di òrìṣà. A human being can very much be canonized and be turned to an òrìṣà because of their extraordinary attributes. This word òrìṣà is always used interchangeably with irúnmọlẹ̀, but strictly speaking, they are not really the same things. Irúnmọlẹ̀ is a very ancient word that has different etymologies according to different schools of thoughts. I will share only one of it for the sake of time. This particular one, I'm not so sure of it, but I'm sure it will make sense to a lot of people. The school of thought argues that irúnmọlẹ̀ is irún ọmọ láti inú ilẹ̀, that is, ẹgbẹ̀rún ọmọ tó ti ilẹ̀ wá, 1,000 children from the earth. And if you remember, we also have Igbamole. Igba is 200 children from the earth, 200 sons or daughters of the earth. And then there is Okanleniriwomole, which is 401 children of the earth or of the soil. Together they make 1,601. And the narrative is that these are the primordial forces sent by Olódùmarè to the earth when he wanted to establish our world as it is today. These are the sets of principles by which our world operates. They are the mountains, the rivers, the leaves, the trees, the air we breathe, and every other thing that make up our world. So when anything goes wrong with any aspect of the universe, àwọn irúnmọlẹ̀ yìí la máa ń bọ kí ló bá lè tùbà kó bá lè túṣẹ́. Orisa are a set of principles, a body of knowledge that must be recognized if you don't want chaos in our world. They are the various ways through which Olodumare can be accessed, Olodumare being too great to be directly approached. That is the Yoruba belief system. The Orisa and Irúnmọlẹ̀ are laws and principles of Olodumare. Bàbá sì fẹ́ kó rí bó ṣe máa ń rí, a gbọ́dọ̀ ṣe bí wọ́n ṣe ń ṣe. That is why we say that a ṣe léyìí, a ṣe ọ̀hún, kí eku bá lè ké bí eku, kẹ́yẹ lè ké bí ẹyẹ, kọ́mọ ènìyàn sì fohùn bí ènìyàn. Principles, things we have to do for normalcy to be constant. Ìyẹn ni ìbọ òrìṣà. Ojúbọ la sì ti máa ń bọ òrìṣà. What is ojúbọ? Ojúbọ is the sacred space set aside for the appeasing of the Orisa, the designated place where we symbolically pay homage to the principles of the universe, the Irúnmọlẹ̀, the place that symbolizes the concept of doing things the way they should be done so that things can be the way they should be. Kátọ̀ ó lè dọmọ, káláboyún lè bí wẹ́rẹ́. So we take from nature to appease nature. Àmú eku méjì olúwéré àfi bọ ifá, ẹja àbìwẹ̀ gbàdà, ewúrẹ́ àbàmú rẹ́dẹ́rẹ́dẹ́, òbídì àbẹ̀dọ̀ lùkẹ́lùkẹ́, àfi ìwọ̀nyí bọfá tàbí ká fi bọ ilẹ̀ nítorí ilẹ̀ òrìṣà ní í ṣe, ilẹ̀ ọ̀gẹ́rẹ́ afọkọ́yẹrí, alápò ire tọmọ aráyé ń pè lálápò ìkà, agbódìdí ọmọ mi láìsọ ohun tó ṣe. Ilé tẹ́ ń rí yẹn, the house that we live in that shelters us, is also an Orisa. Ilé òrìgì akódìsọ̀rọ̀. Òkè, the mountain, Orisa ní í ṣe. Ẹ̀fúùfùlẹ̀lẹ̀, the breeze, Orisa ní. Omi, Orisa ló jẹ́. Omi is an Orisa. Oko, the farm, has its own Orisa Oko. Igbo, the forest, has its own Olu Igbo. And all of these are so because, as I have said earlier, they are the key forces of what is called the universe, or our own world at least. And we must align our own Ashe with theirs. Tá bá fẹ́ rí ayé gbé. Look at this. A kó irin sílẹ̀, a wá tọ́ epo sí, a wá là ń bọ̀gún. And you think that is religion? You think that is mystery? What is religious about that? That is pure science and technology. Our ancestors did most of all they did out of deep scientific understandings. Tell me, how else scientifically do you preserve iron? Iron is preserved by greasing it, by oiling it. If you don't want an iron to get rusty, what do? You lubricate it. When there is friction between two or more irons, kí la fi bẹ̀ wọ́n? Epo ni. Epo is a lubricant. Epo la fi laja irin. So when you see an Ogun priest pouring palm oil on a bunch of iron, that is not mysterious. He is only being a technologist. What he is doing is not different from what you do when you are oiling the engine of your car. Ogun, therefore, is our own understanding of iron and metallurgy. Ogun is the Yoruba understanding of technology, which is why it makes sense that he is the Orisa of warfare, because iron has given to man a lot of advantages during war. The Iron Age changed our world eternally. Humans now use irons as weapons. What is technology without iron? Without iron, you wouldn't have been able to watch this video. I wouldn't have been able to shoot it. This is iron. Your phone, your cars, your computers, they are all iron. So when we say Ogun lana, that is what we are talking about. Tá bá sọ pé Ogun ṣínà, Ogun rinde, that is what we are talking about. Ogun is not just that bloodthirsty deity who wants to kill everybody. Ogun is the Yoruba understanding of technology, of warfare, creativity, lyricism, and even poetry. Now, what about Ọ̀ṣun, Olókun, Yemọja, Ọ̀tìn, Ẹ̀rìn? Àwọn eléyìí ni Olúwẹ̀rí, Olúwaẹ̀rí, the lords of the water. Ẹ̀rí means water. These are the spirits that dwell in water. Ṣàngó is the Yoruba understanding of electricity and everything attached to it, starting from the rawest form of electricity, which is thunder, ara. So if I want to understand one or two things about electricity in the Yoruba worldview, I go to Ṣàngó and I study him in-depthly. Ṣọ̀pọ̀nná tá a tún mọ̀ sí bàbá àgbà, olóde, ṣàgbàrìgì, ọbalúwayé àbí babalúwayé pẹ̀lú. This one is the Yoruba understanding of the operatings of epidemic diseases, how they are caused, how they spread, and how they can be contained. The Ṣọ̀pọ̀nná movement is one that includes the inoculation of victims of epidemic diseases through the use of gbere. I have done a whole series on this sometime last year with Dr. Tunde Adegbola, and the links to those videos are provided in the description of this video. Now, who is Eshu? Eshu is our own understanding of cause and effect, retribution, accountability, and even protection. Eshu is our understanding of the confusion that is associated with the crossroads, which every man experiences at every crucial moment in his life. That point where you are confused, where you don't know where to go, when you need guidance. Èṣù là á ké sínú àkókò bẹ́ẹ̀, òun ni onílé oríta. A lot more to come about Èṣù very soon. But let us go on. Who is Ọbàtálá? Ọbàtálá, Ọbàtárìṣà, Alámọ̀ire. That deity is the Yoruba understanding of everything that has to do with creativity. Egungun is the Yoruba understanding of the world of the ancestors. And Ifá, the greatest of them all, is the Orisa of wisdom, of knowledge of everything that exists, the Orisa of Imo, understanding, the one that every other deity depend on for knowledge and wisdom and understanding. Ifa knows the history of all things that exist in our physical and spiritual world. So all of these Orisa, as I keep saying, are our understanding of the various aspects and principles of our universe. When anything goes wrong with any aspect of our world, we remind ourselves of these principles by paying homage symbolically to the Orisha. And that is where Etutu comes in. That is where Ebo comes in. All of these things are deep, but they are not beyond our understanding. If you go after them with a diligent heart of sincerity, you will find them, you will understand them. So we shall be talking about these things bit by bit. We can't exhaust everything in one video. But don't forget, Eshu is the main character of our discourse, the one we are really trying to study. This video is only to pass across a very necessary information that is going to make our journey a lot smoother. Stay with me on this journey. Trust me, there are a lot of very fascinating things you are going to learn. And as always, I part with you for now with the assurance of the fact that indeed, wa ṣeré.